With a 20-year reputation for clean business, Matt Glynn at Code Property Group is the first choice for real estate on the Sunshine Coast and surrounding areas. I've known Matt for a very long time from a personal level and professional level, and he is an excellent real estate agent. He's professional, he holds a high level of integrity, he presents incredibly well, and has a huge amount of knowledge when it comes to the real estate industry. So if you are in the market to buy, sell, or simply get a valuation and find out more about your current property, then give Matt a call on 0404 315 066 or matt.glynn, GLYNN, at codepg.com. You won't be disappointed. Okay, welcome back to another edition of the Paul's Body Engineering Podcast. I have wrangled my beautiful wife in once again, and I thought it was an opportune time, given where we are in the bodybuilding season, to talk in depth about post-comp. Post-comp blues, post-comp navigation, the highs and lows of the space. It's something we've both experienced. It's something we have both been through multiple times, in fact. And it can be quite a challenging time. In fact, many people would argue that it is actually harder than prep itself. So I'll bring Moni in. How you going?
Hey, babe.
I thought this was a really good topic because there's a number of avenues we can discuss here in relation to the food side of things, but also the psychological side of things, which is obviously your forte. You, on your other podcast, mentioned a stat about the Olympians, and I thought that was really relevant. Do you want to share that as we dive into this? Do you remember?
I love it how, just straight off the bat, throw me under the bus without any prior warning that you were going to ask me this question.
That's the point.
I don't remember. It was stats around...
it was like 70%, wasn't it? Was it 70%?
I really don't remember. I don't want to butcher it, but essentially it was
Paraphrase.
an overwhelming majority of athletes, so Olympian athletes, suffer clinically diagnosed depression post-Olympics Games.
That's clinically diagnosed. That's not the ones that just have some depression or
no. So there was they talk in the thing I listened to. They talked about clinically diagnosed, and then they also did talk about depressive state, depressive mood, depressive disorder as such. I don't remember the stats, but it was high. It was really huge, and I think this is Olympic Games, but we can relate this back to goals in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
And talking about post-comp, competition is a goal. It's a big goal. So it's no surprise that this also falls into that bucket.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it is a big goal because, every individual that competes generally puts their life on hold for not only the preparation period, which could be 4, 5, 6 months, but also the previous 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, depending on, how far into this sort of sporting career you are. And it's very much a case that you get to that last show, the last event, you come off stage, it's all accolades and congratulations and everything, and then the come down begins. Yeah. And that's the space where a lot of people can struggle, not only from the food side of things, but just you've been so high for so long. I don't know. Do you want to talk about your experiences first? We'll talk about ours, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of our recommendations or just our advice around it.
To be fair, it's actually been quite a while since I've been on stage. So I was thinking about this earlier today, and I don't know that I can recall it too well because it has been so long ago.
Okay.
But from a posing coach perspective, I can actually pull on a lot of experience there with other athletes that have experienced post-comp, and I think that's possibly something I could pull from.
Yeah, do that. Okay.
Yep. So what do you want to say?
Any sort of let's talk about some stories in general. I could share. I remember.
You share yours.
Okay.
So it makes more sense.
I remember we were living at Nebo Street, so that the first house we lived in, and I think you were at work. You must have been working at any time at the time. And I remember walking to the IGA and buying a 4-litre tub of ice cream and eating it on the couch, watching TV in the middle of the day. And justifying in my head, the macros will be okay, I'll be fine, all this sort of stuff, and I was obviously still complete. Things like that were very much almost out of body experiences, because you're, I guess, dieting for so long, and there's a heightened level of food focus. And look, back then there wasn't much guidance regarding the reverse or the period after the show. So yeah, it was kind of a free-for-all in terms of food. And I think I put on 5 kilos in the first week, just through eating crap. But I don't really remember struggling too much mentally in terms of the come down. It was more about, when can I go again?
I was going to ask you, that 4 liters of ice cream, was that I'm depressed, a post-comp blues, or was that just I want to eat because I have free reign to eat?
Pretty much.
Yeah, so slightly different. But when you talked before about feeling, the come down effect, it's like, well, of course, because you've been riding this high. And I think especially when you get to the back end of the comp prep and you are competing weekend after weekend, you're going show into show, your adrenaline's through the roof.
Yeah.
You really are riding a high. You're getting congratulated from everybody.
I was about to say that.
Potentially you're going in placing quite well. So everything, even though you're dog tired, you're riding through, you're pushing through, you're fitting in so much. So if you're exhausted, you're tired, but you're still getting your steps, you're still training, you're still meal prepping, you're still doing all the things because that's your goal. And then you wake up one morning and essentially that is gone.
It stopped, yeah.
It just stopped. So that's where the come down comes from. Like, that adrenaline is now crashing.
Yeah.
So when I think about post-comp blues, I like to think about those 4 weeks post-show as a recovery phase. So instead of looking at it going, okay, I'm in comp prep and I'm doing all these things for comp, and then I'm going straight into an off-season / improvement season, there's a bit in the middle that I think people forget. And for me, that's a phase around recovery. It's like you just said, you've spent 30 weeks, potentially you've spent 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, who knows, leading up into this big goal. You need to really then, you owe it to yourself to focus now on your recovery.
Yeah, your health should be a principal concern. And if you've obviously got a coach who, knows what they're doing, they'll give you those parameters and what you should be aiming for. But you put your body through a tremendous amount of stress. Like you've been quoted a number of times saying dieting's a form of stress, right?
Of course.
So we're putting ourselves in low body fat, we're low energy, there's probably low libido, low heightened levels of fatigue. All of these things need to be recovered. So that should be the principal focus post-show. Getting yourself into the optimal state of health and making sure that everything's running accordingly.
And that's just from the health markers perspective.
Yeah.
I'm talking about holistically whole life view.
No, that's right.
You need to think about this recovery phase as, okay, now if you've been an asshole to your husband or your wife, now it's recovery for your relationship.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
recovery for your friendships. It's going and recovering and coming back to the real world to a point.
Yep. And it's also, reintegrating back into quote unquote normal social behaviour. You're able to revisit going out to dinner with your partner or your kids and things like that, and allowing yourself to have that flexibility without feeling guilty or without overdoing the food. It's a whole process.
It needs to be looked at again like another version of comp prep.
Yep.
And the fact that you said process, I think process is a really key word here, that a comp prep is a process. You have macros or a meal plan you have to hit. You have steps you have to hit. You have training, you have cardio, you have posing. You have so many processes every single day that then the day after your last comp, if you wake up and then go, oh, well, none of that matters anymore, that is how you spiral very quickly, because you've gone from being a goal-driven person with boxes to tick to then essentially nothing. And that's where I think it's really important to then look at, okay, post-comp, what's my process now? What are the things I need to do now? And a good coach absolutely will have this outlined for you before you even get to that stage. So that's really, really important.
Yeah.
And it's knowing that that coach is there for you, and you should be able to lean on them and chat to them 100 times a day if you need to.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Yeah, the process should be, education before it comes to an end, because, you need to be aware of, it's probably the wrong word, but the ramifications of if things go really, really south, because you can impact your health quite significantly. Like there's even recent studies to show that there's such a thing now called refeeding syndrome, where you can't stop eating.
That happened to me, and now that we know what it's called, that's all great and well. But my first comp, I very much was like that.
Yeah.
There was no real guidance around post-comp food and the mental side of that, and I struggled big time with that. And I don't think that it was necessarily post-comp blues, but I do feel that I just had issues around food.
Yeah.
And it was just things that had been re-triggered from my childhood that I probably hadn't worked through, and I probably needed to have worked through before going into a contest prep. But you can spiral very quickly. Yeah. And I think the biggest mistake people make with this is thinking they've got to go it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And
you don't.
Nope.
And I do see, and I have seen plenty of people who finish their comp and then they quit coaching with their coach.
Yeah.
That's the first mistake you've made. Biggest mistake. You should be committing to at least 8 weeks post-comp with your coach.
I'd say longer, to be fair.
That's why I said at least.
Yeah.
You should be committing to at least 8 weeks post-show with your coach to just get you into a more normal point of view again.
Yep.
But second to that, not waiting till check-in days to tell your coach what's going on.
Yeah.
If you need to say to your coach, look, I have some concerns, can I check in every day? If your coach says no, they're an asshole, don't prep with them again. But seriously, you should be able to lean on your coach every day if you need to.
Yeah.
Second to that, your friends and family, the ones who supported you through this, let them know, hey, this post-comp phase for me is going to be challenging. I would love to celebrate with you, but please don't ask me to go out for coffee and cake with you every second day.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to go to dinner 3 times this week. Slowly integrate these things back in. And if you have a supportive partner who's supported you up until and through your comp prep, they'll support you for another 4 to 8 weeks post.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they won't be sitting on the couch eating KFC while you're still struggling. I think that's, again, an arsehole move. But yeah, you're right. Like the coach relationship is integral at that point, because they've obviously got you to this point in the healthiest manner possible. You've done really well, whatever that result may be. But now you need them more than ever in terms of navigating the next part. And like you said, quitting or finishing up with your coach straight after is the dumbest move, because you can't just assume it's going to be fine.
You can't just assume you'll go back to normal
life.
And
you might be sitting here right now, you've got one show this weekend, and then it's all said and done, and you're telling yourself, I'll be fine, I feel great, there's no problem, But you don't know what that next step's going to look like as soon as that goal is finished.
But not even that. A good contest prep coach has the education to reverse someone back into optimal health. As a normal person who's just done a comp prep, how do you think that you should know how to do that?
Yeah, exactly. You can't just assume everything will be fine and then just start eating like a dickhead, because...
Food's only one element, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Food is only one element. There are so many health markers that need to be checked and ensured that things are back on track.
Yeah. Well, even... psychologically, if you start to lose control of your food situation, obviously your physique will start to soften up.
Yeah.
You'll start to have digestive issues. You'll start to feel bloaty and watery. You'll look at yourself in the gym mirror and go, God, only 4 days ago I was looking sharp and lean and everything, and then the mind games start to kick in.
And that's the big part of the post-comp blues.
Absolutely.
It's the headspace stuff. Yep. So I think in this moment here, if you're wrapping up your shows, or if you already have, or you're coming to an end, just remind yourself why you did this in the first place. Why did you choose to do a comp?
Yeah.
What was the purpose?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why was it important to you to do it? And I think get really clear on those reasons again, because sometimes we forget them. And that will help you then when you get to the back end of the comp season, before you go into this recovery phase, before you go into an improvement season, just to check in with yourself and remind yourself why this is important in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Your why is very, very important, but it's also important to have some new goals set. So if you are going to do another season, when is it? Talk to your coach immediately about that. Set those goals in place, because the success of your off season can be foundationally built by your reverse and your recovery period. If you have a really good recovery period, your off season is going to be really, really good. Therefore, your prep for the next season will be even better than the one you just experienced.
And as it should be.
Yeah.
Every prep, I'm not going to say it gets easier, but it gets better to manage.
Yep.
And you should be putting yourself in a better position every season.
100%.
But this also too is important for people who go, you know what, this was my first and last comp, so maybe first timers.
Yep.
Like, you don't know what you don't know.
No.
So you don't know how you're going to rebound post-show. And if you've done comps before, you probably know how to navigate it to a point, but every comp is different.
Yeah.
Every post-show experience is different. I forgot where I was going to go with this.
Well, you're right. I'll just elaborate on that. Every show, every prep for a client is different. Like, I've done, I don't know, 5 or 6 preps now. Every single one was different.
Yeah.
In terms of the calories that I finished on, in terms of the activity levels that I had to do, in terms of my conditioning, and then the reverse was different too. So, you know, each time it's going to be a different experience. You can't just assume it's just going to be cut and paste.
That's where I was going to go with this. Is even if you are not planning on getting back on stage again. So say you've done your comp season, you went, you know, that was great, awesome, but, you know, it's not for me, or I've just now got other things I want to work on. Know what those other things are and have a goal set for yourself.
100%.
And if the goal of just getting back to optimal health isn't strong enough, which it kind of should be, it's pretty bloody important.
Oh, yeah.
Set some other goals along the way.
Yeah.
So what are some other things? And one thing to think about is, you know, towards the back end of comp, you've had to meal prep very specifically. You've had to do cardio, you've had to do steps, you've had to do training. So you've had a lot of time tied up in very specific things you've had to do. And now that the comp is over, you've now suddenly gained all this extra time.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do with that time? So maybe there was a hobby you wanted to start and you couldn't fit it in before. Like, what are some things, life things, that potentially flow on for the reason why you started competing? Maybe you started competing because you wanted to prove to yourself how strong you can be.
Yeah.
So what's your next goal?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to go to a powerlifting comp. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, you've just got to think about the flow-on effect from there.
Yeah, it's important to, and it's important that the goals are specific to you as well, because they've got to have a reasoning behind them so that you will pursue them and obviously adhere to whatever plan is required to get there, just like contest prep.
Yeah.
If you just get out of a show and go, oh yeah, you know, I might run a marathon now, or I might, you know, go and do some long distance swimming or something, well, you know, that's all well and good to say, but are you actually going to do that?
Yeah. And you need to make moves on this stuff quickly.
Yeah.
Don't finish a comp and then go, oh, I'll just see how the next couple of weeks go.
I'll take a month off.
Yeah. that is a really big mistake for a lot of people, is allowing themselves to take the time off. So obviously you can talk about this from a coaching perspective, but one thing that I would say to people is never 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, you know, if you have a week where you don't really want to train like you were training before, that's fine, give your body a break, but maybe you go into a deload. Maybe you're going to jump into an RPM class because you loved doing those before but didn't do them in comp. Maybe some Pilates, whatever it may be, but don't take off more than 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
So food, okay, so I'm going to go out to lunch with my bestie on this day, but I'm not going to go out for lunch with my other bestie the day after. I'm going to wait till later in the week. So see how you're slightly changing some of these habits, but not more than 2 days in a row. Like, never 2 days in a row. So you had your step target before. Yep. Keep hitting your steps. There's no reason for that suddenly to go from 10,000 to 2,000 overnight.
No, well, steps is great for mental health anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you have a day where you don't hit your steps, you just know that tomorrow you're going to hit your steps, because never 2 days in a row.
It's a good point you raise, because, you know, obviously you get to your last show and you're probably pretty cooked, right? You're going to be pretty mentally fatigued, you're going to be physically fatigued, and you're almost at a stage where you're longing for it to finish. But the worst thing you can do is just stop everything, because your body is in a state where it's so adapted to its environment, its training, the nutrition, the steps, the cardio, whatever, you know, strategies are in place. And if you stop all of that, and even if you continue eating just over and above what you are, chances are you're going to put on weight pretty quickly, because you've removed all that activity. So you've got to implement a strategy to maintain the activity to a lesser extent, but still have it there. Like you said,
Absolutely.
a deload. I always implement with my guys, I say, look, if you're happy to follow the plan, follow the program, that's great. If you want to do an ad hoc training for the week, go in and have some fun with your training.
Exactly.
Train with enjoyment, pick the exercise you like to do, still train relatively good, but just take away from the structure of a plan and do it that way. And then following week, go back to what's planned.
Yeah. And the reason I say never more than 2 days in a row is because I've seen in the past where girls have gone the week after show and taken the whole week off training.
Yeah.
And because they've taken the whole week off training, then their nutrition just suddenly slips. Or vice versa.
Yeah.
They've decided to take the week off tracking macros or the week off their meal plan, and then their training starts to slip, and very quickly they end up spiraling out.
Yeah.
And once you spiral out, it's hard to get back in control. And I've seen it too many times with girls that their food go AWOL, and then suddenly they want to start a mini cut.
Yeah.
It's like, babe, you're only a couple of weeks post-show. You cannot do a mini cut.
No, I've had that firsthand with clients, and you're right. You can't diet out of a diet. So if you've lost control for a week or two and put on a few kilos, and you're really unhappy with that, you can't diet at that stage.
Nope.
Particularly when you've been dieting for 30 odd weeks, your body is so
work.
used to. Let's say you finish up on 1,200 calories as an argument's sake, round number. And then you commence the reverse, it goes pear-shaped. You can't diet lower than 1,200 calories when you've been dieting for 30 weeks.
And
it doesn't work.
And the thing is too, like, you're probably not on 1,200 calories because you've been eating a bit like an idiot.
Yeah.
But your food is so inconsistent, it's hard to actually know.
That's right.
So, yeah, never 2 more days off in a row of anything. And that's just initially. Then maybe 2 weeks go by and you're starting to feel a bit better, so you coach and you have a chat and you kind of release the reins a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then a little bit more, and then suddenly your food is back to maintenance of what it was before, and you're feeling really good, your body's feeling good, and then now life can go back to normal a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's reminding yourself that this phase isn't forever.
No.
But if you stuff it up, it's going to be harder and longer than it needs to be.
If you stuff it up, you actually have to continue the reverse and continue to put weight on before, and this is probably 12 weeks minimum before you can consider doing a cut again.
Exactly.
You've got to get your health markers back, you've got to get your energy back, you've got to get all of your systems back online to an optimal level before you can even consider a diet. So don't even think of it, you've just got to wear it.
And
unfortunately.
I also don't want this podcast to just end up being about about dieting and body checking.
It's not a bash, no.
I wasn't suggesting that, but I'm meaning post-comp blues isn't just about you putting on a few kilos. No. There's a lot more into that. So I think it's important just to acknowledge that your focus post-comp and when you're in that recovery phase, you need to understand you will put weight on.
Yeah.
You have to.
You have to.
It is not a brag to jump on social media a week post-show and say, I've only put on 200 grams.
I'm 6% body fat.
It's not a brag, so let's not focus on that. Let's focus on those other health markers and get yourself back into an optimal position. Some
principal health markers I use as a guide for my guys, there's 4 in particular that I use to give them an indication of, if they're tracking well. First one is obviously food focus. So if that slowly diminishes over the first couple of weeks, great, you're going really well. Second one is satiation. So eating to content and being comfortable with that rather than eating like a dickhead, and obviously, which can lead to feeding syndrome. Third one's libido, because as we know, particularly in males, the libido can decline significantly just due to your low body fat percentage and low energy availability. So if that returns, great. And then the fourth one is obviously just general energy. Performance in the gym, energy around the place, getting up out of bed comfortably, not having to, have no energy to even reach for the remote for the TV. So if those 4 markers are returning within the first 3 to 4 weeks, you're well and truly on track.
Also too, don't expect your food focus and ability to feel full to return quickly.
No, it doesn't. No.
That's absolutely one of the last ones, I think, because your body is going to... this is where people make a big mistake. People post-comp go, I just want to go and intuitively eat for a while.
Oh, God. Yeah, what does that mean? That's them secretly saying, just give me the reins.
Well, not necessarily. Intuitive eating means that you're going to follow your body's hunger cues. Now, you have intentionally undergone a period of starvation. Essentially, that's what you've done. Yeah. You've been in a calorie deficit for however many weeks. It's a controlled form of starvation.
Yep.
Your hunger cues absolutely are all over the place right now. Your body wants to get you, and especially as a female, because females are supposed to hold more body fat than men.
Correct.
That's just, what's the word? Evolutionary, how we are.
Design, yeah.
That's how our body's designed. So our body wants to go, put on body fat, get it on quick, quick. That's a survival mechanism.
Yep.
You cannot trust that right now, because all that's going to happen is you're going to eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. because your body just wants to put body fat on.
That's right.
So don't make this mistake of thinking I'm just going to intuitively eat. You can't do that just yet.
No.
You will never feel full. You'll never feel satisfied. But you'll feel sick.
Oh, you will feel very sick, but then you still can't stop sometimes,
But you still
right?
can't stop.
Remember that time I threw up, didn't I?
Yep.
Remember that? So I ate and ate and ate and ate. And I remember, I think we went and ended up getting Chinese, and my stomach was hurting.
Yep.
Because I was so full.
Yep.
And then we got Chinese, and I basically threw everything up I'd eaten that day.
Yep.
Because I mentally could not stop myself.
Yep.
That was a wild experience.
I remember post one of the shows having all the things I could think of. Like I think we had pizza for dinner, and then we had donuts, and we have ice cream, and we had chocolate, and have cookies. I had all this stuff, but I could never get that craving that I wanted satisfied.
Yeah.
It just nothing that I thought made it happen.
No.
So that's another thing too, is like, don't go chasing a craving. Oh, I'm really craving this.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you, it's not what you think it's going to be.
Nah, it's not. It raises a good point and slight segue, but don't stock up on food that you want to eat as well.
No.
Don't store lots of candy bars and I don't know, just whatever shit you're chasing, because if it's in the house, you're going to find it and eat it.
Yeah.
So if it's not there, the temptation's not there. And it's the same with social media. I remember my first season, I was following all these food porn sites. Looking back on it, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
But I'm watching all these people make all this food, and it's like, it's just making the situation worse.
Yeah.
So eliminate that. Don't stock up on food. If you can control your environment, it's going to go, and like you said at the very start, have the support of those around you, your coach, your family, partner, etc. You're controlling the controllables.
Yeah.
So that's going to make life a lot easier. Are you looking to shed a few kilos, change your composition, improve your relationship with food, increase your strength, or simply just have a better accountability level? Then maybe coaching is for you. I now offer online coaching in a number of capacities, from week to week, fortnightly, monthly, and of course nutrition only coaching. So if you are interested or want to know more, simply jump on paulsbodyengineering.com or simply send me a DM.
Yeah. And you see people post-show have these big brownie boxes and cookie boxes and all those things.
Such a dumb idea.
And if you have gone and done that for yourself, okay, you've done it now.
Yeah.
Don't keep the box in the house.
No.
Have what you're going to have.
No.
And then put it in the bin.
I
Get
know.
rid of it.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? Because most federations will get a sponsor of that nature.
Yeah.
So they're kind of enabling the situation
Yeah.
to a degree. They're not actually helping.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Look, if it's one cookie or one brownie, it's not going to be the end of the world. But if it starts something,
Exactly.
that's what you've got to be very much aware of.
A girl I follow, Ashy K, IFBB Bikini Pro, she talks a lot about being a taste tester. So she doesn't, she's just shy of 50 pro wins in the IFBB. She's going down in history.
That's our dog.
Going down in history as one of the greatest. And she talks about being a taste tester. So she loves ice cream. She loves brown. She loves all these things, of course. But she just has a taste.
Yeah.
And then that is it.
Yeah, right.
She has one bite. And that is it.
It's a lot of discipline,
It's a lot of discipline. But you don't get to almost 50 pro wins by...
No.
So going back to your why did you do this? Why did you compete? What was the reason for it? What were you hoping to get out of it? Going back to those things and making sure that they're front of mind.
Anything hard requires discipline, right? It doesn't matter what you do in life. There's got to be some discipline attached to it. So this is no different. There's got to be self-control. Most people that do bodybuilding shows, well, for the vast majority, they're adults. Yes, there are some teenagers and some, under 23s and stuff. But, the adults, you should obviously, firstly, be educated around the reverse diet and, the implications of that. But also just have more self-control. Set up your environment, set up your situation, set up your process. Make sure that your next week after your last show is organised and planned.
Set yourself up for success before you even get there.
Why not? What's to lose? And then, a lot of the time people don't want to compete again because they've had a bad reverse experience.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that hinders the sport or gives the sport a bad name, when if you can do it right, chances are you probably want to come back and do it again and do it better.
Absolutely.
That's why I've done it over 40 times, because I wanted to get better.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got that control. That, you know, as much as the coach will be available and will guide you, obviously the buck stops with you as the individual. You put the food in your mouth. You control the situation. You know, you can control the way you think, and obviously set yourself up, as you said, for success or potentially failure. But we don't want that for anybody.
No. And also too, just touching on food again, is prioritize your fiber food. So prioritize your fruits and your vegetables.
Absolutely.
Prioritize your proteins. So prioritizing those foods earlier in your day, it's going to help you feel full. It's going to less likely have you searching for food as the day goes on.
Water as well.
Yeah. So even like an example, I saw someone I follow on socials put a picture up the other day, and they were eating chocolate, and they've come from a background of binge eating habits. So now when they eat chocolate, they have a plate, they put their chocolate on the plate, and they had strawberries and blueberries, and there was something else on the plate.
Amazing.
It was like a mini little platter.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter was the chocolate was on the plate.
Yeah.
With these other things. So they weren't just getting a block of chocolate standing in their kitchen or on the couch devouring it. They actually had a mindful moment around their food.
That's good.
And I think that's a really important thing here, is to just be mindful with your food now. So sometimes in prep, towards the end, we just get to a point where we're just scoffing food down. We've got too much to do. We're running around. We're eating in the car. We're all over the place.
Yep.
Where possible, put your food on a plate.
Yeah.
And sit down with no distractions. And be mindful. Be in the moment. Chew for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Because things like that will help you avoiding to go searching for more food.
Absolutely. And just as a side note, don't plan a holiday straight away if you can help it. Like, if there's something pre-planned, and that's fine, but if you're going on a holiday a week after your last show, it's kind of not a good idea.
It's not a good idea. It's not going to be a very fun holiday.
No, I mean, it might be, but then reality will kick in very swiftly when you get back.
I listened to a podcast this morning, and one of the girls was saying she booked a trip to Bali, 3 weeks to Bali.
Yeah.
And it was very soon after her show. She came back 18 kilos heavier.
Whoa! Yeah, okay, there's refeeding syndrome there.
As a bikini girl.
Wow.
In Bali.
That's a lot of
having
information.
the time of her life.
Yeah.
Eating, drinking, all the things. 18 kilos. Yeah. And that's coming back to, why did you do this in the first place? You know, you don't want to be coming back to 18 kilos up. Because you can't cut that off now.
I'll tell you right now, that'll take 12 months before she can get that off again.
Well, that's exactly what happened. 18 months.
There you go.
So she went straight into, well, I've done this now. Her coach put her onto a build phase and went, you're just going to have to be really uncomfortable for a long time.
Yeah. And
that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what it is. You've got to... Yeah, that's a bad idea. Like, unless you're incredibly disciplined, it's not advisable to have a holiday of any capacity, unless it's maybe like a long weekend with a loved one or something like that. But what do we do on holidays? We eat, we drink, we don't act, we're not active.
No.
You know, we tend to relax, that's the point. But unfortunately, that's counterproductive to a reverse.
And that's going back to us at the start about thinking of those 4 weeks post-show as a recovery phase.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't necessarily go on holidays on the last 4 weeks of your comp prep.
No.
So you shouldn't be going on holidays the first 4 weeks of your recovery phase.
No, absolutely not.
So really try to keep as much of that first 4 weeks like your comp prep as you can. Obviously, releasing the reins as you progress, getting a bit more flexibility.
Yeah, and not 10,000 calories a day when you've just been on 1,000.
No.
Yeah.
But outside of the food thing, back to the overarching comp prep blues, what else do you think, Paulie?
Oh, yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it. Like, it's really important to have a goal or have multiple goals set up afterwards.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether it's another show or another season. We know that another season will take some time, but that's something exciting to get into a build phase. But if it's something else, great. Just have it in place. Talk to people about it. Openly communicate it so that it is more real. Like I said, don't just throw an idea out there if it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's got to come from you, and it's got to mean something so that you do stay on the straight and narrow. That's really important. But yeah, keep the dialogue open with your coach, with your loved ones. That's really important. If you're struggling, openly admit that. I've seen it firsthand where competitors have gone into their shell. They feel like they've failed, and they don't say anything. And then when you see them, you can immediately tell that they've lost control of the situation. Because generally, and it's females in particular that this happens to, they get the big round face if they've consumed too much food too quickly because of the inflammation that it causes. And I don't mean that with any ill respect. So if you're struggling, or even if it's one day after, and you start to feel a little bit more, speak up straight away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And if the goal is simply that you're going to compete again, make that call with your coach. Have a chat to your coach. Book a Zoom call. Book a consult.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next goal in regards to competing? Okay, how did we go this season? What's our feedback? What do we need to work on? Okay, are we sticking with this federation, or are we changing federations?
100%.
Are we sticking with our division, or are we changing divisions? Like, have that goal set in place and be like, okay, we need a 12-month build. Okay, great. So to do a 12-month build successfully, it needs to have this, and this. And roadmap it out.
You can map it out. You can map a couple of years out in advance, easy.
Map it out.
Yeah.
So if you're like going, I don't know what else I want to do, and my goal is just to compete again, get on a call with your coach a few days after the show and map it out.
Yep.
What's it actually mean? Because then now you're going into this next phase with intention.
Well, you've got feedback, right? You've got feedback, so you know your weak points. You know your deficiencies that you want to build on, which is... Everyone's got deficiencies in bodybuilding. No one's perfect.
But also, too, even if you don't have your proper feedback yet from the federation, your coach will know what your feedback will be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, if not 9.9 times out of 10, we've known the feedback.
Yep.
When we watch our athletes on stage and see their results... There has not been a single time, and this goes for posing, this goes for girls that I know that I've worked closely with you, Paul. There's not been a single time where I've gone, oh, that feedback's surprising, didn't expect that.
Yeah.
Every single time it's been like, yep, knew that, let's go.
Yeah. So you can start to establish a strategy straight away, and the periodization of bodybuilding is very obvious. You go from a recovery into an improvement, into a pre-prep, into a prep.
Yeah.
And that's the cycle, and it just runs over and over if you're a seasoned competitor. So you can map out, like even if you want a 4-year off season, that can be mapped out.
Yeah.
Another
thing too to consider is a lot of people use the term off season.
Yeah, I know.
I've really stopped using that because it just...
It's not off.
It implies that everything is off.
It's like cheat meal.
It's not off. We're now in a phase which is about improving, and if you want to compete again, this improvement season is the most important part. Because without any improvement, you're getting on stage showing the same package again.
Well, you look the same or worse potentially.
Yeah, so there's no point. So going back to what are your goals, what are you wanting to achieve, and just get focused on it.
Yep.
I think if you are someone who loves ticking boxes, just download a habit tracker offline on Google, make one in a Word document. What are your key non-negotiable things you need to be hitting every day, and just tick them off.
Absolutely.
And just think, no 2 days in a row.
Maybe you get a mindset coach.
You could do that too.
Are you available?
I am available.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, if you're struggling, you need a little bit of support, give Monique a call.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean by support. There is so much support out there.
Yeah, there is. You're right.
And you may need a psychologist.
Yep.
That's okay. But no one can help you unless you speak up.
Yeah. It's the whole, it's along the lines of the ain't weak to speak sort of scenario. I know that's about mental health, but this is still the same thing.
Post-comp blues is mental health.
It's mental health, exactly. It's just a different avenue of it. So if it is something that you are struggling with, please reach out. Please DM. Please reach to your coach, your partner, whoever you need to, because no one should turn you away. No one should... Although I have heard coaches in the past tell people to toughen up and things like that, which is absolutely ridiculous. But the good coaches, the good people in the industry will support you.
Yeah.
Experience the difference with Matt Glynn at Code Property Group. With a 20-year reputation of a clean business, Matt is your guy when it comes to all things real estate. Make sure you give him a call now on 0404 315 066. What else? That's it?
No, I think that's about it.
That's a good wrap up, eh?
Just get really clear on what was the point in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're listening to this and your season's still going and you've got 1 or 2 weeks to go, get clear on what you want to do post-show. If you're listening to this and your season's already over, I'm hoping that we are hoping that you have recovered well. Or if you're struggling, reach out, chat to whoever you need to about navigating the next little part to get into a better place, both physically and mentally. I got a question for you.
Oh, I was thinking those were no questions.
No. You're going to get a question every time.
You're just like Googling random dumb questions, aren't you?
No, I haven't Googled it. I thought I was outside and I thought, right, what can I ask you? Because you've answered the dinner one, you've answered the fight song one, you've answered I can't remember what the other one was.
I don't remember.
What have you learnt recently? What's something that you'd like to share that you've learnt recently? And I know I'm throwing you under the bus here. Something, it could be anything. And then there was silence. Something you've learnt. What's something you've learnt? It could be to do with your life coaching, because I know you've been studying heaps. With your kids, dog. We've learnt heaps of tricks with our dog.
I don't like it when you throw me on the bus.
So you like to be organised and prepared in advance, don't you?
This is way too stressful.
No, it's not. No one's listening. No one listens to my podcast. It's fine.
What's something I learnt recently? Oh my god, see, I would love to have had a really cool something to say.
Yeah, but you don't have to have something to say. This is off the cuff.
This is just
we're going to turn this microphone off and you're going to abuse me, aren't you?
No. I don't know. That's tricky. Like,
you did a posing lesson today. Did you learn something new there?
Yeah, that even though I've been posing for 9 years, it's still fucking hard. I don't know, babe. Like, that's a really tricky one.
Okay.
We've been doing lots of things with Jakey Poo, training wise. That's actually been fun.
Yeah.
Like learning about dog behaviour as opposed to obedience.
There's been a big shift in my way of like to treat a dog. You know, the way you should be doing it is it's completely different to what I thought.
Well, it's not necessarily the way you should be doing it. It's just a different approach. So I grew up. My family comes from, like, my dad used to work in a prison, my sister works in a prison. We've had, like, Dobermans, German Shepherds, those type of dogs. And a lot of training with those dogs is very obedience-based. Yeah. Whereas with Jakey Poo, we're doing dog behaviour.
Jakey boy, by the way.
Jakey boy. We're doing dog behaviour as opposed to obedience. And that's been actually really interesting.
Yeah.
Just learning different ways to walk him and let him explore. Like, we don't just go for walks now, we go for 100 sniff walks.
Yeah, that's right.
Just different things like that. What else did I learn? Something I learned this week. Did some more looking into the Story Dogs program.
Yes.
The training that I need to do with Jakey boy. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll think of something really great once you stop recording.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm struggling from my own post-comp blues because the NRL season's over, so I've got nothing now. I'm hanging for the cricket.
Yeah, we got to wait a while. Cricket season starts not for ages.
Yeah, I know. So that's all right. We got bodybuilding shows to deal with.
We have so many bodybuilding shows at the moment, and I'm so damn excited. We got Olympia this weekend.
Yes.
It's going to be amazing.
It will be. It'll be big.
You got any predictions?
No, because all the top guys. Well, I only follow. Chris Bumstead will win again, but in the men's open class, I don't know enough of them because 6 of them have pulled out over the last 6 months. So
what about physique?
I must admit I haven't looked closely.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, don't know. No, I've been too busy worrying about my guys.
Yeah.
All right, we'll wind it up. Thank you, Monty.
No worries.
Throw your Instagram out again.
Because you can't remember it.
No.
You can find me at Monique_Hooper_ or Monique_Hooper_ coaching.
Correct. So if you are in the market for a mindset coach, lifestyle coach, or life coach, hit Moni up. Give her a follow at least, and that way it looks like she's doing something.
Oh, that's nice.
It's
not all about the numbers, you know that.
I'm well aware of that.
I have very high engagement on my socials.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right, thank you, Moni. Appreciate it.
No worries.
We'll tune in again and we'll do another one in the not too distant future, home.
And also too, thank you. This podcast episode was actually a recommendation from your question box of the day.
It was, absolutely it was. So
if anyone has any recommendations that they'd like to hear us chat about, please send that through. Let us know. 100%
DM or send us a message directly, and we'd happily chat.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was a really cool chat with Moni, and I have to thank her for her time and insight once again into a subject that we do come across on a regular basis. And if anyone is out there struggling post-show, please reach out, speak to the appropriate people. Don't be afraid to speak and talk about what you're going through, because it can be a challenging time, but it can also be a time that can be managed a lot better with the appropriate support. So don't be afraid to ask the questions for a little bit of help. Now, if anyone is interested in my coaching services, please jump on paulsbodyengineering.com and have a look at the services there. Alternatively, simply email me, paul@paulsbodyengineering.com, or send me a DM, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. But until next time, and as I say to every client every single day, have a great day.